How's it going, everyone? And welcome to Chapter 1 of Tav's story, a Baldur's Gate 3 story in which I'll take you all along with me on a cinematic journey through the world of the Forgotten Realms as we follow our protagonist, Tav, and his companions on their epic, realm-altering adventures. Watch on as Tav and his team start from humble beginnings and eventually turn themselves into living legends with a bit of help from you all as well, which we'll go over more shortly. But first, please consider giving the video a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on to be notified each time a new chapter goes live. Now, let's journey on over to Faerun. Chapter 1. Abducted. I don't remember my parents. One of them was an elf, I guess. The other? Human, probably. All I really know is that what was told to me by the priests who found me, and that was that someone wrapped me in a ragged cloak and left me in the shadow of a crumbling shrine to Ilmater in the lower city of Baldur's Gate. Fitting, right? God of suffering, watching over a newborn cast-off. I was destined for a rough upbringing. I grew up in the streets, the gutters really. Every alley, every loose cobblestone, every merchant stall I could vanish behind became part of my world. I was what the rich folk called an urchin. I learned quick. If you're fast, quiet, and know where to stick the knife, you can get by. And if you can smile while doing it, people rarely notice the coin pouch missing from their belts. When I was about 12, I joined up with a gang of kids called the Velvet Skins. We pretended to be performers, jugglers, dancers, whatever distracted the crowd, while someone else did the real work. We had rules. No killing, no kids, just coin. And for a while, it worked. It was the closest thing to a family I'd ever had. Then came the job that ruined everything. I picked the wrong mark. Turned out he was Flaming Fist. Half the gang got grabbed. I barely got away with my skin. The Velvet Skins scattered, maybe dead, maybe worse. I never found out, and after a couple of years of trying to find them, I stopped looking. After that, I went solo. Bigger jobs, sneakier jobs. The kind that paid well and left no witnesses. I built a reputation. I stopped needing anyone. The name Tav started to have some weight behind it. Then, everything changed that one fateful day when I took on a job that sounded too good to be true. Everything was going along swimmingly until something large struck me from behind, and everything faded to black. I woke in a strange room, restrained within some kind of person harvesting pod. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see a grotesque-looking creature hover into the room. Several tentacles hung from its face, giving me flashbacks of the horror stories I heard on the streets of creatures known as mind flayers. The creature seemed to be able to control the environment around him with his thoughts, as he opened what looked to be some kind of pool at the center of the room. He reached down into it and pulled out what looked to be some kind of tadpole before walking over to one of the pods beside me. Inside it was a Githyanki woman, who struggled as the creature placed one of the tadpoles on her face, which proceeded to crawl its way up to her eye socket before burrowing in behind her eye. It was grotesque to watch, and my heart started racing, fearing that I could be next. Sure enough, the creature reached into the pool once again to grab another tadpole before turning to look at me. I started to panic as it walked towards me. I tried to look away, but something came over me as I lost control of my entire body. He held the monstrous-looking tadpole out towards me as it bared its razor-like teeth before pouncing at me. Then, everything faded to black once more. I don't know how long I was out for, but I came to as the creature I assumed to be a mind flayer was exiting the room. Moments later, The pod I was held in began to shake ferociously, as I could hear the faint sounds of bells off in the distance. Then, out of nowhere, more bodies just started appearing in the rest of the pods around me within seconds. The entire room continued to shake, until suddenly, a burst of flame flooded the room. After several more minutes of what felt like a very intense earthquake, a hole ripped into the side of the room I was being held in, and in came a massive red dragon. I had heard stories of these ferocious creatures, but never had actually seen one with my own eyes. The dragon set the entire room aflame, igniting whatever liquid was in the tadpole pool, causing an explosion so large that it destroyed all of the pods within the room, knocking me unconscious in the process. I came to, now outside the pod that restrained me, with a throbbing headache. The tadpole pool that once stood full before me was now shattered and empty. After regaining my wits, I decided to push on and make my way out of the room I was held in. The next room I entered was just as horrific as the previous one. It seemed as if it was some kind of torture chamber, but I did manage to get a piece of key information from this room due to the massive hole in the wall, and that's that I'm on some kind of flying vessel. This makes my escape a lot more complicated. As I made my way across the room, I could hear a faint voice calling to me, just off in the distance. It led me to the corpse of an elf, who had the top of his head severed.
Yes, you've come to save us from this place. From this place you'll free us.
The exposed brain quivers in expectation.
Please. Before they return. They return.
Who am I talking to? A man or a brain?
A newborn. Born new from this husk.
You realize you're talking to an intellect devourer, a minion of the mind flayers who abducted you.
With that realization, I immediately wrapped my hands around the brain and squeezed it until the minion was no more. From here, I headed on over to the hole in the side of the vessel to try and assess my options, and boy was it utter chaos. Red dragons circled the ship, while flying imp-like creatures tore at the outer hull. As I was surveying my surroundings, a loud noise from behind startled me, as a Githyanki woman leaped over my head.
Abomination. This is your end.
Your head throbs and your skin tingles. Visions rush past. A dragon's wing, a silver sword, and a flash of your face seen through the strange woman's eyes.
Oh. My head. What is this? Skvar. You are no Thor. Vlaakith blesses me this day. Together, we might survive.
What do you suggest?
First, we exterminate the imps. Then we find the helm and take control of the ship. We will address the matter of a cure for this infection once we reach the material plane.
So we pushed onwards together, slashing our way through the demonic imp-like creatures that stood in our way.
Death won't take me yet.
The weaponry they wielded would come in handy as we attempted to take over the ship. After making short work of the imps, we climbed our way towards the front of the vessel and found ourselves in yet another prisoner pod room, with a control panel with buttons on it standing at the center of the room. The urge to push the buttons was too great to overcome, so I pushed everything I could, and suddenly, two humanoid-looking creatures rose from the beds to the side of me. They were no match for our blades, and as we laid the final one to rest, I could hear a woman calling for help, just off in the distance in one of the pods.
Get me out of this toxic!
We have no time for stragglers.
We can't just leave her in there. I'll go look around. There must be some way to get this thing open.
Try that contraption next to the pod. They did something to it when they sealed me in. Hurry! Please!
I proceeded to examine the console that stood beside the pod.
The console appears dormant.
I attempted to look for a switch or a
The
release.
mechanisms are completely unrecognizable at first, but then you spy an empty socket.
Maybe something would fit in there to open the pod. Before I headed off to look for whatever object that could be though, I decided I might as well try my luck first. So I hit the console, hoping that might work, but to no avail. I headed into the next room to look for the object.
Dazed woman is trapped inside the pod. She doesn't notice you.
And behind said pod was yet another one of these consoles. However, this time, the console seemed to be active.
As you place your hand on the pod, you hear something. A presence connected to the pod, commanding the person inside to change.
Change her. Changed at the pull of a lever. How? If we are not purified, this may be our fate.
It was a horrific sight to behold, but I was determined that this would not be our fate. Behind the console laid the body of a dead thrall, and within her pockets, I found a strange-looking rune that looked to be in the shape of the object we were looking for. I grabbed it, and we made our way back to the woman stuck in the pod. I inserted the rune into the socket, and sure enough, it fit perfectly.
The console hums to life. But what is its purpose? Will it free the captive, or transform her like that other unfortunate?
With this woman's life in my hands, I made sure to study the device to the best of my abilities.
The pulsing glow and organic lines of the device make it seem more like a beating heart than a machine. This device is different from the one that caused the other captive to transform. Perhaps it will open the nearby pod.
We don't have much time, so I had to act fast, and to the best of my judgment, I decided it was worth the risk. I reached out to place my hand on the console.
Suddenly, you feel a hideous squirming in your head. The parasite. Then discomfort fades, and another sensation washes over you. Connection. Authority.
It was as if I was controlling the console with my mind.
You feel the biomechanical brain of the console process your command and yield to it. A shiver runs across your mind. You feel sated.
I snapped back to reality as the pod beside me sprang open, and the woman who was locked within emerged.
I thought that damn thing was going to be my coffin. Thank you.
Your mind lurches into her thoughts. Her gratitude is mixed with wariness, because you have a gift with you.
You keep dangerous company.
Dangerous company is what you need in a fight.
Fair point. Looks like there's plenty of fighting ahead. Let me come with you. We can get off this ship and watch each other's backs along the way.
Alright then, let's get going. I'm Tav.
Shadowheart. One moment.
She reached into her pod and pulled out a strange-looking artifact. What's that?
It's nothing. Trust me.
Enough of this chatter. We need to get to the helm. Now.
She's right. Lead on.
So with Shadowheart now joining the group, we continue to push onwards towards the helm of the ship.
We're nearing the helm. Once inside, do as I say.
Who put you in charge? I'll trust my own judgment.
Cane yank.
There was animosity between my companions, but we all knew if we were going to make it out of here in one piece, we needed to work together. As we entered the control center of the ship, all hell broke loose. Demonic entities had penetrated the vessel, and we're in a fight to the death with the remaining mind flayers. As the demons began to gain the upper hand, the last remaining mind flayer turned to us and asked for our help.
Thrall, connect the nerves of the transponder. We must escape. Now.
Do it. We will deal with the gate after we escape.
Despite all that creature had put me through, it seemed as if it was our best chance at survival, so we agreed and fought our way through the demons towards the transponder as the Mind Flayer locked in one-on-one combat with the commander of the demons. Every time it seemed as if we quelled the demonic forces, more would show up to aid their commander.
Hurry, before they strike.
Eventually though, after an arduous battle, we finally came face to face with the transponder.
The helm's alien transponder. You've made it in time.
Just as I was connecting the tentacles though, a red dragon emerged, ready to attack. His fiery breath filled the room, but thankfully, the tentacles held firm as the ship was transported out of this hellish realm. We weren't safe yet though. The vessel was heavily damaged and in no shape to fly, as its erratic maneuvers threw all of us who remained within it ferociously from wall to wall. Through all of the chaos, I managed to crawl my way back over to the transponder to sever the tentacle's connection, steadying the ship. We were still plummeting towards the ground, but now in a lot more controlled manner. I braced for impact in the corner of the ship as the mind flayer stared at me with its evil eyes. I scanned the room, looking for my companions, and all of a sudden, I was struck across the face as everything faded to black. I awoke now outside the ship, hovering ever so slightly above the ground, before dropping once again, hitting my head really hard on the ground, and losing consciousness once more. I don't know how long I was out for, but when I awoke, the sun was now up, and I found myself on some unknown beach.
As you wake, the tadpole squirms in your skull.
I oriented myself with my surroundings, trying to find out where I had landed.
The chaos of the crash site confuses the landscape. You'll need to find a settlement or landmark, and you'll need to do it quickly. The tadpole is a death sentence, and the clock is ticking. You need a cure.
Once I'd regained my wits, I pushed onwards inland until I saw a lady just off in the distance. It was Shadowheart. She seemed to still be knocked out from the crash. As I approached her, I could see the strange artifact in her hand that she'd been so secretive earlier on. I was left with a decision to make. Should I try to wake her up, go for the artifact, or just leave her and the artifact behind, rushing off to go look for a cure? But that brings an end to Chapter 1 of Tav's story. Now is where you all come in. How should Tav proceed? Should he do the honorable thing and attempt to wake Shadowheart up? Should he follow his roguelike instincts and try to steal the artifact before making off on his own? Or should he do the selfish thing and simply leave her behind, rushing off to go search for a cure for himself? The choice is yours. Comment below, and the comment with the most likes on it will be how we proceed with the story. Also, since this is only the first chapter of the series, I'd love any and all kinds of feedback on ways I can improve the series on a whole, to make the future chapters the best they can be. And, if you're enjoying this story so far, please consider giving the video a like, and subscribing to the channel with notifications on, so you'll be notified when the next chapter goes live. But until next time, have a good one. Thanks for watching another video. If you'd like to watch Chapter 2 of this series, if it's available, click on the video to the left. Or, if you'd like to check out some of my other content, click on the video to the right.
Place your heart with mine. Let your sleeping soul take